Welcome to DeFi Expectations. Today we have on GitLiquid, creator of the Pythons project. Happy to have you here today.
Hey, it's awesome to be here. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. I'm excited about this.
Yeah,
definitely want to pick your brain on some things because I know absolutely nothing about coding. So this is something that, I think will be a very interesting topic.
Cool. Yeah. I will share any information that I'm able to. Definitely happy to talk about the project and just myself. And I'm by no means any kind of seasoned programmer. This project was just kind of like let's see what I can create with what I've learned so far. And that was also one of the big reasons why it was pretty much released for free. So but I'm happy to talk about everything you guys want to talk about with it and walk through the stuff.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your history, like how long you've been doing coding, what else you've been involved in, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, coding wise, as far as programming language, a couple months ago is when I started, just doing the Code Academy, Udemy, Pluralsight. Those are all online subscriptions. Just started working through a bunch of courses there. But to kind of step back maybe from that, I don't really consider myself to be a quote unquote artist, but I've been, painting and things like that, as a hobby for quite some time as just like a creative outlet. So when I got turned on to the NFT space, I was like, oh man, this is actually, a pretty cool area that could be explored, creatively, for myself. And that's kind of what got, I guess, the Pythons project kind of started. But I even in that, I feel like I'm pretty late to the game because a bunch of buddies of mine are really what turned me on to even what's going on into the NFT space. So I by no means consider myself one of the I hear about the NFT community and whatnot, and I think from what I've seen, it's an awesome community, but it feels a little inauthentic to say that I'm integrated and part of that, if that makes sense, just kind of being so new to the space.
Yeah.
I feel like all of us are pretty new to it. I mean, there's the OGs who have been in for years and years, and then you've got the people that just been in like 6 months, we've been in a little past 6 months now. But it happens so quick, and it's all about how engaged you are with it and what you're trying to bring to the table, really. Which was kind of something I wanted to start by asking you is what, besides just noticing that it sounds like you had some people that had introduced you to crypto who had some interest in it. What was it that was specifically interesting to you about crypto, and what was like your background leading up to you getting more involved with NFTs and more specifically Pythons?
So, all right, there's I guess a couple things to kind of unpack there. We don't need to get into politics and all that kind of crap, but one thing I really love about, I'm not brand new to just, the crypto space in general. And one thing that really draws me in more to crypto is the decentralized aspect of it, to where it's, very individual oriented, I should say. And there's not a lot of regulation there. And there's a lot of freedom for people to create new things, and it's peer-to-peer, kind of breaking away from the large big blocks that can control things, which is to me just really interesting, really stimulating. From a creative perspective, the NFT space, I think it's in its infancy. Who knows what it's even going to look like in like 6 months from now, as how fast it's been evolving, just from what I've seen in the short time I've been in it. It's the most tangible means that I've seen that allows someone who's, creatively oriented to have some kind of reward. You have to define what success is for yourself. But as far as a financial support aspect, it seems to be the easiest way right now for someone to really directly support themselves with the work that they're creating. It's pretty incredible to see.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Specifically speaking, that's kind of what brought me to DeFi, is kind of like just that exploration of incentives and what it is that makes people do certain things or take certain actions. And I think in part, you got the pandemic and all that, of course, and the sudden explosion of DeFi. I really do think it was in part a lot of people sitting around wondering, is there something better than this banking system that really hasn't served us? It's really serving itself more than anything else, and had that opportunity to look at other things that were going on. I got to admit that the space is beautiful. It's amazing, all the exciting things people are doing. But I'll admit what makes it easier for me to, I guess, gravitate to DeFi than NFTs is like, again, around that concept of incentives. I can look at a DeFi protocol and I can say, all right, I can put this amount in, and maybe this APY might be right or might be off a little bit, but generally I can kind of get an idea of, what my return is going to be every month.
Exactly.
When it comes to NFTs, it's very different. There's all these different ways to evaluate them. And then of course, there's the fact they're a piece of history. You're purchasing one or you're acquiring one for the sake of like owning a piece of crypto history, and it's also art in its own right.
So, I have a lot more knowledge, I guess, when it comes to just the traditional fine art space. I'm not saying I'm some kind of, expert that comes from that area, but just from the years of trying to get into galleries and doing exhibitions locally, and just the art world in general as it's traditionally been, I think that it's interesting right now, I think, with the NFTs, because, and I think it's going to take time for a lot of this stuff to be sorted out, to see which projects are actually going to stand the test of time, which collections will actually stand the test of time. Because I think that time is really, one of the biggest things that really starts to differentiate art and artists as to what's actually like valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's still kind of early to see. I think it's pretty easy right now to kind of see projects that are in it for a buck versus projects that are in it just for I guess from the Python standpoint, the sake of creating something that is put out there that's just for the sake of creating it, which was my intention, with this, and which was a big, one of the biggest factors to just drop the remaining collection of, I think we dropped the remaining collection of 1,400 for free. So there's 1,800 total. The first 400 I released that did have a price like associated with it, but the pricing was just kind of like, there was really no premeditated like pricing scheme with how like the first 400 were released with this. And so I think I had a couple pickups, a couple sales from that initial 400, just going into sending, the gas fees to keep sending these out to other individuals to just continue to spread the word about the project.
So that actually brings up one of my questions. So when you do something like this, like a mass release, is it kind of like, are you able to just spend the gas one time to do a mass release, or did you have to do it for each single one?
Okay, so I'm not exactly sure how it would work on. I think it's speaking from the OpenSea perspective, because this was created and minted through OpenSea. I'm pretty sure it's similar to Rarible, and then the other one. What's the other one? The other big ones like Mintable.
Foundation.
Foundation, yeah. But basically with OpenSea, you can set up what's called like a collection, and you can pay a one-time contract fee where they essentially establish the contract for this project. And then you can mint and list for free underneath that collection, quote unquote, which is really like the contract that they've established on the blockchain for this. So the cost to actually start minting and releasing is basically free to you after you pay that initial contract fee to have it set up, which can be somewhat substantial. I mean, I thought it was pretty reasonable for what it was. But it was certainly way more. It's in the favor of the creator to do it that way rather than to start minting each one of these individually.
Oh yeah.
Outside of its own contract.
I had a quick question about the pricing, because you mentioned that when you first started selling these, that there wasn't like a real set pricing model. But I'm noticing that, and I noticed this after I actually paid the gas for mine, that they have these different features, and you can kind of categorize them by what percentage of them have each of these features. Is that kind of like what you're talking about in terms of pricing model? Was that not established, or rarity?
Okay. So let me walk you through first the Python, I guess, collection and attribute roles. So there's 4 different body types, and they have a rarity role associated with them. You have the garters, which are basically the basic. There's a 60% chance that a garter is going to get generated. You have the rattlers, which are the next tier up, which I believe is like a 25% chance of being generated. Then you have the cobras, which are somewhere between 10 and 15. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. And then you have the mambas, which are a 5% chance of being generated. So you have the body type, tier structure there. And then you have 3 different types of attributes that can be generated for each. So the way the script runs, first the body type will be generated, and then the attributes will be rolled to be potentially generated. And there's 3 different attributes. There's the fangs, there's the snake skin, and then there's the eyes, which is hypnotized trait. So you have a hypnotize have I think this 5% chance of being generated. The snake skin for a body type has a 5% chance of being generated. And then the fangs have a 8% chance of being generated. So if you're looking at a garter, which is a 60% chance of being generated, he then has 3 different roles that happen to where he has a 5% chance of getting eyes, 5% chance of getting the snake skin rare roll, and then an 8% chance of getting the fangs roll to him. So this one you have up here got the hypnotized roll to him.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Mike, I had another question specifically kind of related to that. So obviously Pythons isn't the first project to have, components that were randomly generated to some degree or generated by an algorithm. But can you compare, because I know this was done with Python code, can you compare maybe how they're typically done, and maybe if there are similarities? Like, is this idea of properties and percentages comparable, but you did it with a different code? I guess if you could just compare that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as there's basically 2 different types when it comes to NFTs that I've seen. And, as far as this kind of like aesthetic style, you have like the hand-drawn ones, which are, these are all 1-for-1. Like these are all 721 tokens. Like each one of these are their own token. But you have individuals that will do hand-drawn pixel art and say, all right, I'm doing 500 of these. Each one's going to be done by hand individually. Or you have like the algo generated side of NFTs to where, all right, these are being, this has been coded and it's being generated by a script, and then the properties, the attribute possibilities are all coded into the script. And so I've created the script, I've set up the properties and whatnot, and then I'm stepping back as the creator and letting the algorithm do the work. And to me, that was, that to me is kind of the most appealing from my end, because there's an element of you as the creator, setting things up, but then letting chance have its day with it, which to me, and some people I think maybe just approach it differently. which is fine. But to me, that just seemed like a really cool, conceptually, that's a really cool approach. So as far as the attribute structure and things like that, I think that's what I've done is pretty standard as far as the algo generated side. I know like Bitbirds had some similarities as far as like some of the established attribute properties that can be generated. CryptoPunks had their approach was different than the way these Pythons were set up. There was still a chance for the different properties to be generated, but their population of potential attributes and things like that, whether it be like the cigarettes or the beards and things like that, they had a much larger population of potential attributes that could be populated. So I wouldn't say that I was breaking a creative mold with this, so to speak. I would say it's fairly in line with a lot of the algo stuff that's already out there. But I think what it does kind of bring to the table is something unique to the NFT space, just in and of itself. Maybe there's some people that think it's kind of cool and want to add one or two to their collection, and there's still some free ones to be had. So.
And I was wondering, so like I said, I don't know much about coding. Is Python, I really don't know what you would even do with Python. So is that something that other people who've done projects like this would use?
Yeah, I think, Python or like Java. Python is kind of known for being like a really beginner friendly language, just the way the syntax command structure works, as opposed to like Java or like C++. I think CryptoPunks, was done in Java, I believe. Bitbirds, I believe, was done in Python. I'm trying to think. I'm not really too familiar with any other like algo projects as to what they would have used. But for command language, Python is pretty user friendly and pretty easy to kind of get into.
What about color generation? Because I know you have these 4 properties, but the colors are also pretty unique as well. That's particularly why I chose mine. I think he looks almost like Barney the dinosaur.
I know. I love it. Yeah. So like, so the color generation. So if you can see like the light purple versus the dark purple here, basically those pixel, I'll call them pixel cells, or I guess just pixels themselves, are coded to randomly generate a color from the RGB scale. But the dark purple are all have the same coding to where it's going to generate the same RGB value, and then the light purple are all coded to where it's going to generate the same RGB value. But what that RGB value is completely random. So when you do get 2 colors that are like in this case where they're both purple, to me that there's an extra element of rarity there, because what are the odds that they're both going to end up coming up purple, but just different hues or values, one being darker, one being lighter.
Would it be possible for both of them to have essentially ended up the exact same color?
It would, and I don't believe we actually had any that came up the exact same color, but there are a few to where it's extremely close. And I think there's actually one right now that's available that has snakeskin on it. I think, and it's pink, and that it's really close. So if you go to the left side of here and use the filters towards the bottom, you can go through the collection and actually sort on the attributes. I only want to see cobras. I only want to see cobras with like hypnotized eyes. I only want to see garters with like snakeskin and hypnotized.
That's how I got my Mamba.
Yeah. The Mambas were probably actually one of the hardest designs to come up with. The garter and then the cobra were both pretty easy. Those kind of just came really easily. And then the rattler and then the Mamba they took a really long time, and they went through a lot of renditions, and some of the early renditions are, looking back now, we're just like, oh, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that we did not. Yeah.
Do you have images of those?
I do, but I got to be honest, I'm not brave enough to share because they're really bad, and they're so far from like where they are right now. Because, like I felt, the garter is a 60% roll. So, there's going to be a lot of the garter. So I wanted it to look really like good. And I was happy with the body style that, I came up with it. But
is it something that you had to like draw out, or is that part of like actually drawing that in the code essentially?
Well, it's drawn in the code, but I actually drew these out through just like a pixel, like one of the pixel apps. And I basically just set up my array size, which was 24 by 24 pixels, and then just started just sketching on my phone. I've got like a Samsung Note with like the pen, so on the go I would just kind of start working on the designs for these. When I got one, like the garter that I got that I liked, and then the cobra that I liked, it was kind of like, all right, I know the different like elements that I want to be here. Like the tongue is going to be in these particular pixel cell numbers. The eyes are going to be here. And so then I take it to the actual, in the code, you have something called like it's either, I'm not sure how exactly it's pronounced, but it's either like a NumPy or NumPy array table. And you can actually basically draw the image directly into that with associated values.
So with something like this, I know you said that you've been coding for a pretty short amount of time. How long did it take you to actually, like, if you could estimate, how long did this project take you to, actually code and put out and all that kind of stuff?
So I would say the designs took about a week to get like nailed down. And that was a week of not just like an hour here and there. I mean, there was many hours. The coding side, it's kind of been something that I've been working on for a little bit, but we closed on our house, sold our house about 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago now. And we had about 5 weeks between we could get into our new house now. So we are staying with a family member, and I was just crashing on the air mattress in their living room. And I used that time to really get the legs underneath this project and get it released. And it was probably about 50% there up to that point. So the remaining 50% of this project took place it took me probably about 4 weeks, I would say, to kind of finalize it. And that really was kind of in conjunction with getting the designs finalized, how I wanted, the attributes to look and whatnot. Cause like the hypnotized eyes, for example, it took a lot of back and forth in the coding to get it to actually generate truly like randomly with the eyes, it's basically based off of 3 different values. So there's like an I1, I2, and I3 that are coded to the eye. So you can see all those light pinks, for example, would be like I1. And I1 is going to generate a random RGB color. And then the darker like purple there is like I2. And that's going to generate I2 when it rolls. It's going to generate, if the hypnotized gets triggered as an attribute that's going to be attributed to this body type, it'll then pull a random color for I2. And then the same with the dark green being I3, for example, if that makes sense. And that took a lot of work because for some reason, for a while, it was only pulling values that were, like, you can see its body type is green. It was only pulling values that were also like different shades of green. And I don't know why. And then I don't even know what I did to correct it, but I ended up correcting it somehow, which is, probably the sign of a really noob coder, which I'll raise my hand to. But
to be honest, that's us at numerous times. I mean, we've done web development. I used to do network infrastructure, so I've done coding in different formats, like through routers, switches, all different things all throughout my life. And I can't tell you how many times something just wasn't working.
And then it was.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, save. All right, we're not messing with this part of the code anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Never
This is frozen. This is frozen. You're not allowed to touch it. Okay. And now we can start looking at the other parts. Yeah. There was a lot of nights on an air mattress that was very slowly deflating over hours. And then when my ass hits the ground and I look up from my computer, my laptop there, I'm like, oh, okay, time to inflate this, reinflate this, and it's definitely time to like call it a night and go to bed now.
That's like when I'm sitting working and then I suddenly realize it's extremely dark. I'm like, oh shit, the sun's gone.
Yeah, it's a time sink. But I mean, honestly though, I had a great time just creating this. And yeah, I think we have now like 140 or more unique owners. And I never really I thought this was going to be put out there and no one would ever see it, and no one would ever even like, I mean, there's just so much in the NFT space right now that it was just kind of, I was like, all right, this is going to be just something that sits out there that no one will ever see. But it's pretty awesome to see that there's actually people who have taken interest in it and think that it's a cool thing. So that in and of itself is it's enough for me.
Do you know how many are left at this point?
I mean, there's quite a few that are left for free from that from the remaining 1,400 that were released for free a couple of weeks ago. The problem though is if you're looking for something with rare attributes, a lot of those have been scooped up, but there are still garters. There are still garters that have some rare attributes that are still available for free.
I see this guy right here in the corner with the eyes, and
yeah,
I feel like there might have been one more with snakeskin.
So yeah, there's a few. So all right, from here, so click on at the very top there, the Python's link, and all right, now you're not looking at my wallet. Now you're looking at the actual.
I get you.
Python's page. Okay, so now go on to view all there on the top right.
Now I should be able to filter them, right?
Now you should be able to see some attributes if you scroll down. No, it's not intuitive with the way they have it set up here. So go down to the very bottom.
Yeah, when I originally was like coming in here and trying to look through, I had no idea this option was available. So I'm scrolling through like all of them, trying to find the Bombas. And then I was like, oh wait, I can just click right here. God damn it.
Wow, that's a lot easier.
All right, so go to Garter. Maybe just go to the sort by at the top right. And sort by like price, low to high. All right, so these are, and so there's also free Rattlers and Cobras available as well, but they don't have any of the rare attributes. This would at least let you see all of the garters, and we could actually see, just scrolling down.
Yeah, there's a couple ones right there.
ETH right there.
Yeah. I can't remember the number of that one that has snakeskin on it. That's pink on pink, but he would be probably the one that I would pick up. And if I was, I've thought about kind of pulling him off the market just to keep for myself, because all of the rarest ones, I haven't kept any for myself. They're all out there in people's hands.
You still have like the most rare one, the Cobra, right?
I don't know.
Oh, so you
So it's 1430. Scroll up 1430. He was right there. There he is. Yeah, that 1431 right there. He's actually, to me, he's like actually really rare because even though there's not like an attribute associated with the RGB values that get populated, the fact that those, you know, values end up coming up so close together, and he has the rare snake skin attribute, which may actually be black, which is pretty rare in and of itself to have like the black get generated. I've thought about taking him for myself, but I won't. I'll leave him out there. But no, so we had there were two that were generated with all three rare attributes out of the entire 1800. One was a rattler, and then one was a cobra. And that the cobra that was generated with all three rares is actually the collection icon that you see. So I was holding on to him, but in our Discord, we had some community members that were kind of really saying like, hey, I think we need to get a website up, and it's something that, you know, I definitely agreed with. And I do not have time right now with moving, with having another kid on the way, to actually like undergo like a web development for this. So I put it out there in our Discord to the community that said, okay, I'm soliciting bids for someone who wants to do a web, you know, develop the website for us, and, you know, DM me, you know, what you got, what you're thinking, and then, you know, I'll make a selection, and whoever I select, I'm going to give number 1059, that triple rare Cobra to, for, you know, getting that set up and out there. Because from my perspective, the way I look at it, getting a website up there is something that benefits the collection. It benefits anyone who's holding a Python, just for better exposure, more information about the project. So I didn't have any grief about, you know, about doing that.
What are some of the plans for the site? Because I know, you know, I was in the Discord like suggesting stuff.
I like the idea of having them, you know, with their attributes, and having some kind of like, I'm not sure if it was you that suggested this. Maybe it was someone else, having like a battle.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I love the idea. What I don't know though, and this is actually what kind of first got me in down the coding path. I don't know, because this was initiated through OpenSea. They're the ones who initiated and set up the contract for this. I don't know what the flexibility is with starting to then manipulate or take the NFTs that are generated from this contract and then start to do something different with them.
Yeah, that's
rather than if you had done it yourself. And that's actually what got me down the coding path, was to say like, being able to like to draw up and write your own contract and initiate it directly to the blockchain. You're really just limited by, you know, your coding skill and what you can kind of come up with to do.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think of, because, you know, the Mooncats were pretty much on their own little plane. And so when those kind of popped back up, everyone had to come and wrap them if they wanted them on OpenSea.
Right.
So yeah,
So
I didn't even think about that, but because these actually originated on OpenSea, how do you port them over to a different site to actually start like manipulating them? Because I think that'd be super cool if you could just like essentially have almost like a little Pokemon battle where you like.
I mean, I think it would be, I think that would be, I would think that would be really cool. And I think, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think would be, and I'm not, and it's not that it necessarily couldn't be done. I just don't know if it could or couldn't.
Yeah. So then like for the website, what is the plan as of right now to start out with?
So the website is, it's all the boilerplate, you know, project information, the elements of like, what's out there on GitHub regarding the code that's been open sourced, like a mapping to the actual and an organization of the collection itself with like the attribute properties and which ones are falling into which tiers, so that it's an easier way to identify and look at and see the Pythons outside of OpenSea's, functionality there. That's kind of the starting point as to where we're at now. There'll be some aspects of it that will be, there'll probably be some information about me. I need to probably do the write-up though for that, and then hand it over to the web guys who are doing it, if there's an interest in myself, which, if there's not, wouldn't hurt my feelings. There will probably be some areas that it will develop into as this project kind of just continues to be out there, and more of these are picked up, and as it I don't know if evolves is the right word, because the collection's out there, it is what it is, but just as the community grows around it. But that's kind of where we're at as far as a starting point.
Gotcha. One of the other things I had suggested, this is the thing is I'm like, I got suggestions all day, but I don't know how to do anything. I don't even know if what I'm talking about is even feasible.
That's generally where I operate from. So yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I could do this, but I have no idea how.
Well, if you ask, you never know. Someone might be able to do it. So it's
the other thing I was thinking about that I think I had proposed is possibly having a zoo, or having tanks available where you could actually structure different pieces in there. So I guess essentially kind of like Fry has mentioned previously, there was a drop of something called punk bodies, which I actually ended up finally looking up today. But it's if you got a Python, then you essentially get an airdrop of a randomly generated tank,
Okay. Yeah. And do they integrate somehow, or is it more just on the air, like eligible for the airdrop?
So the airdrop, I think if you owned a punk, you got it for free, I believe.
Okay.
And then I think there was more of them available if you wanted to go and purchase them or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd love to be, because this isn't there's definitely going to be other projects down the road for myself that I want to get into. To me, this was kind of I want to see what I can make with what I know so far, and then, release it out there, and hopefully there's some interest, but, and then kind of and build off of that. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of other ideas. It's kind of more right now, getting the hard skills, kind of caught up to what I want to do. And then also kind of balancing that with also I also do still love painting analog or whatever, in the real world as well.
What kind of stuff do you paint usually?
So I've done a bit the abstract stuff I've done has probably been some of the most, I don't know, successful stuff that I've had just around locally. But I don't know, the older I get, I'm only 35, but the older I've gotten, I should say, the more I'm kind of really drawn to stuff that the old masters did, the portraiture, and I don't know what it is. There's something, there's a part of me that sees a lot of stuff that's going on in the modern art world, or just in general modern stuff that there's a lot of cool stuff out there. I like new directions, I like new things, but sometimes I feel the it's not rooted in substantial things. And when I look back at old paintings and things, and the tradition of a lot of that, there's a lot of it's rooted in something that kind of speaks to me, that I really like.
Do you see a lot of reverence for that in NFTs today, or do you see any artists that are kind of also taking a similar approach or interest?
how I kind of gauge that myself when I'm looking at the NFT stuff is I'm personally looking at for like originality as to what I value when I'm looking at stuff. You know, I think there's elements of like Pythons that are original, but then there's a lot of elements to it that are not original. I mean, this isn't like an algo generated thing is not new. You know, I think the, you know, Python's created through Python thing with what they are is something unique to them, and the way that this project has kind of just been put out there. You know, CryptoPunks did it first as far as just kind of releasing the collection to everyone for free. You know, you just have to pay gas. So it's not even that the way that these are being released is even completely original. But I do think that what they bring to the space right now is something different, because I see, you know, the majority of projects in the NFT space are a lot of like kind of pump and dump in a sense. You know, it's all about the hype. You know, let's get the hype. We'll do you know, this is going to be a collection of 1,000, and I'm going to release 50. You know, I'm going to hype it up, and then I'm going to release the next 50. And you know, no hate on anyone who's doing that. No hate on that, you know, kind of strategy. I mean, it's a proven model and a proven method that works. But I see just a lot of the same in that regards, and it makes me want to do something just different than what everyone else is doing. So what I kind of value is something that's original, you know, in its approach, or at least it's in its conception, as to like the actual like artwork itself.
Are there any specific ones that like stand out to you recently?
So if you go to my wallet, there's one, and this isn't, it came in January. It's one that caught my attention like immediately when I found it a couple weeks ago. And it's basically taking, it may be like a dead project at this point. I'm not sure. But it's basically takes market transactions. It's called Crypto Shot. And it then has values associated with like the volatility of the market that day. And then it generates these visuals that are based off of the market data. When the market was moving slow, you see, and they look kind of like abstract shapes. You can see when the market's moving slow, there's not a lot of action going on. And then when it's super volatile, you just have these crazy, I don't know how you describe it, just the crazy like interaction that's going on.
Where are they getting this imagery from?
From the blockchain on a specific date. I think it was it was a week of January, from the volatility of Ethereum. So in the project details, it gives you a little bit more. See if you scroll down a little bit. Yeah.
Creative coding experiment that generates unique animations based on the Ethereum blockchain.
I thought this was like a really, really cool and unique idea to take, you know, market data and then convert it to a visual that I create. I haven't seen anything else like it in the NFT space. So something like this is kind of what I'm drawn towards, something that's just like a unique thing.
What's the periods again? Is it just a day?
I think it's just the 24 hours of a particular day in January.
Gotcha. So they just made this around like one particular like month, or like are these representing different days, right?
No, I think it all has occurred within 24 hours. It's a particular snapshot within that 24 hours.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can we take a look at your wallet and see like what other pieces you got in there?
Yeah, yeah. And there's not much, but yeah.
As I saw, I think, did you have one of the watercolor punks?
It was a Van Gogh 3D punk.
Okay. There was something that the people who also did the watercolor punks started doing with food. I think it might be food punks or something like that. That I thought was like it's fun. I think the watercolor punks are pretty cool actually too.
So have y'all looked much at like the like Picasso punks?
Mm-mm.
I haven't seen those.
Okay. So I mean hats off to the individual who started that. But you're now you're obviously seeing like a lot of spin-offs from that. But I don't know if you are familiar with like GANs.
No.
It's GAN is generative adversarial network. So you basically train a script or a program to on two different data sets, basically saying like, all right, here's, or you train it on one data set, like here's from like an imagery bank, saying like, all right, here's all my yeses. Like I want you to produce an image that looks like, say you put in like 1,000 like Picasso paintings or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to produce an image that looks like these, and it then will start producing image data, and from a different chain, I guess you could say, and it has to basically, that new data that it's producing has to pass what's created from this library data set, and most of them are rejected, and it begins to learn what ends up being accepted. Google has like a function where you can upload like an image that says like, all right, I want you to create an image that I'm uploading based off of this particular like style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where you get Picasso punks. That's where you also get a lot of these other punks that are coming out that are similar to Picasso punks.
Is that like what this is here?
Similar, yeah. Except this guy put a little bit more work into actually like the GIF behind there. This wasn't necessarily just like GAN generated. But like Dream Punks is one. I think Metal Punks is one. There's a lot of them popping up now that Picasso Punks has been successful. But it's basically saying like, all right, here's my input, spit me out an image that is a mesh up of these two different images, but into one.
Mm-hmm.
And hence you get Picasso punks, a punk that looks like, the Picasso style. I had started to kind of really look a lot into trying to create and set up my own GAN to do some different things, but at this point it seems like a pretty fleshed out idea. I guess that's kind of out there on the market now, so kind of back to the drawing board on that one. But it's definitely a really cool concept that I love. So yeah, I'm just kind of excited to see like what else comes in the space. I think the NFT market cooling off would be a really good thing just for new ideas and some originality.
Yeah, there's a lot of people just pumping out crap right now just because it's like the cool new thing to do. It's like Pogs basically. It's like everyone's like, oh shit,
and
I mean crap on a circle of paper.
I know. And it's kind of like, from my perspective, it's like a part of me really wants to hate on it really hard. And then another part of me who like, I mean, art in and of itself is oftentimes like just is derivative. You know, I don't want to assume someone's intentions, but at the same time, it's pretty easy to tell. Like, I think like what's, you know, good from bad. And so I just kind of think like if the market cools off, then there will be more well, and that's not to say that there aren't, you know, new and good things out there, but it's there, I think it's just kind of watered down from everything, like just how crazy it is, that it's hard for them to kind of rise to the surface.
Yeah, it just like occurred to me. I feel like the best recent comparison for, you know, the glut of crappy NFTs that are out there is pour paintings.
Oh wait, what is this? Can you bring this up? I don't think I've seen this.
You haven't seen? Oh my
find
god,
it
you haven't seen like the pour painting craze?
No, I haven't.
Oh my fuck. Like,
Dude, it's so all right. This space moves so fast that like I've been basically offline for like 2 weeks just
Well,
with like with like moving and stuff, that like
I'm
I feel
talking more
there's
like physical
probably-
painting, more physical painting. Is what
Okay.
I'm talking about.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, Fry, if you want to just go Google pour paintings, like, and it's,
like
you know,
this.
like pour, like, so, you know, pouring some paint.
Oh,
No.
what?
The new horror painting craze.
Great.
Yeah, like the fluid.
Oh
acrylic.
yeah.
It's just like anyone who's never done
painting.
any art ever is like, yeah, I can dump some shit on a canvas, you know?
Yeah.
That's why,
okay,
yeah. So all right. So I mean, I feel the same way. I feel the same way, that it's like, and that's why I don't really consider my, like, I feel like I haven't created something good enough yet to where I can sit here and say, like, refer to myself like as an artist. Because yeah, like that, I mean, like every Karen in her studio pouring like acrylic paint, you know, I'm an artist. It just kind of makes it like, yeah, it takes a lot away from something that I think is like, that I hold very high.
Yes, I'm a big, like, one of the few things that I spend money on regularly is physical art. Like, I've picked up 3 other pieces in the last 2 weeks, and for me, it's just like when I try and find something new, especially online, and I'll ask, like, you know, hey, this is how much money I've got, post what you got. I just want to be like, and please, for fuck's sake, don't post any acrylic pour paint crap.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be an asshole either. But at the same time, I'm just like, please just leave me alone.
Yeah.
The pour paint shit.
It's funny though, because at first I thought you did say horror paintings. I was like,
good. I wasn't
like, this is
Dude, that's the fucking thing we got to do next.
This is something that, yeah, horror punks. So all right. So what we're about to see in the NFT space is horror punks.
When it comes to financial incentives, I know you were saying this is basically a project that you just kind of wanted to do. Have you set any kind of royalty fees or anything like that?
Well, so yeah, so I do have a royalty fee on it. The OpenSea lets you do up to like 10%, and I have 10% royalty fee on secondary market sales.
Cool.
So I mean, if the project got like crazy, you know, whatever, like there's like, sure, there's a financial incentive there. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because it's not something that I want to, like, that's under the radar about it, that I'm trying to be like under the radar about. I do have like a royalty fee associated with it. And what I've actually realized from the royalty fee so far has been, I don't know, it probably has not covered a 1/10 of like the gas that I've personally paid out just sending these to people trying to get exposure to the project.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, maybe there's a moonshot in there or something.
Yeah, well, I hope that this will like kind of help spread the word.
It would just be really just the fact that like people think that these are cool enough to pick up and just to have in their collection, I think is really awesome.
Yeah.
And to honestly, like, to me, that's enough. I don't know how some individuals may feel about that, who have picked up like a lot of like really, rare pythons. I want them to, if someone's approaching this project from like an investment standpoint, I want everyone to be able to like, achieve whatever their goal is with this. If they're trying to flip it, I want them to do well. And obviously there's a benefit for me there too.
Yeah.
But it would take a lot of microtransactions for me to like actually get rich off this. But
You never know. I mean,
that's not really
like, realistically, if it catches on, it could just take a couple, depending.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but to me, the bigger thing was just kind of like, just having it out there. It to me is kind of is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's great about it though is every person who gets one, can in turn be somebody who markets it, either because they want to increase the value of the one that they've gotten, or simply because they like the project and just want to spread news about it. So I mean, that's kind of the nice about like these collections, especially like, when it comes down to the creative benefits, being able to have that control after the fact on the resale value, because you might give away you could give away all of these, just to get the attention out there theoretically.
Yeah. I mean, in my approach with this was to say like, when I was like, all right, I'm just gonna release it, to everyone. Conceptually, my thought was like, well, why don't I just like take this project, something I've been working on, and just say like, all right, for the community, for people out there, here's this thing, and y'all can be the people that drive what this ultimately will be. And if it's a success, then we all win together. And if it's not, then, if you wasted some gas money on picking it up and you didn't get out of it what you wanted, I'm sorry about that. But I don't know. Hopefully you still like it enough to where you it's something cool that you like in your collection.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought the idea of kind of handing something over was very like, I don't know, just the opposite of kind of what I see in the NFT space, which is kind of a lot of like, not a lot of, but these projects that are kind of popping up to like what seems like make a buck, and I don't know. I wanted to do something different.
Well, I think a lot of projects too, they try to create this illusion of exclusivity, which and I guess that can be good at making the sales initially, but it's also kind of like what you're talking about. It can create this pump and dump. Whereas I feel like if you have a fair launch, if you give a project to a community and you give them that power to kind of take it from there, it could make it could not make it, but it's like if it does make it, it has stronger traction because the community came together organically around it. I think that's powerful.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if it's not a success, it's it's still a part of the NFT history, and something that's hopefully someone who at least went through the trouble of picking it up, at least it was something kind of cool to them to where it even caught the eye to do it. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I did have two final questions then, and it relates to network. So I know that you did this launch on OpenSea. As it comes to future launches, what role will network have in your choice? Do you prefer the Ethereum network? Are there limitations in terms of cost, gas fees? You have some people talking about like, they're upset about whether this is green or not, some of these NFT drops, but I guess just share with me some of your thoughts on all of that.
I mean, I think with layer 2 coming, and some of what's already like with like immutable already kind of being out there, I'm big on Ethereum. I like Ethereum. I don't really know of a better platform right now to kind of launch something that is as widespread as Ethereum. So I would say like my preferred, right now, my preferred, platform is Ethereum. As far as like the next thing I release, ideally, I would like to be able to release directly to the blockchain myself through a contract that I've coded directly to the blockchain myself, rather than through like an intermediary.
So would that be something like Mooncats? Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, or even like CryptoPunks.
Uh-huh.
So rather than having to go through like a Rarible or like an OpenSea, because I think you have more control when it's your own, contract and then just porting it over, to interface with something like, Rarible or OpenSea. As far as like the green aspect, I just don't really know of like what options are actually like out there right now that are actually like viable, that can actually be like, utilized in the same kind of way. I know there's projects underway right now. But as far as something that's actually out there that's being fully, utilized and that has a market, and I'm open to being educated as well. So,
Well, we're all pretty particular to ETH here, but I do know that we had somebody on for an interview, Sage Storm, who had done an NFT drop for 420. And one of the networks they had been talking about was Tezos, but I can't really like speak to what's different even about like Binance Smart Chain. Recently, I had to have somebody help me with like Binance Smart Chain because I didn't have any gas to pay to get an airdrop that I somehow qualified for. So that was
yeah. Well, it is always fun getting those airdrops that it's like, man, is this worth the gas?
A lot of the time, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Fortunately, though, what was really cool about that experience, though, and I mean, obviously for our audience, be very careful with who you interact with, but I can say that, if you're knowledgeable enough to know like what you're doing to some degree, you'd be surprised, like people will help you out. Like in this particular situation, I had an airdrop. It was like $500, but it was like taking the time to figure out how to buy BNB, and I can't access BNB in like the United States apparently, which is something I've never discovered until now because I've just never thought to use it, So I'm like, how am I going to figure out like, okay, yeah, I could use some proxy or something, but by the time I go through all that effort, is it even going to be worth it? So, but somebody, I posted something on Twitter and someone responded to it. And I just said, hey, man, like, I probably just need like $5 in gas fees. Like, it's not a big risk to you. I'll send the whole thing to your address and like, just hope that you give me half of it back in ETH. Cause it's like, what am I going to lose? I can't claim the airdrop anyway.
Yeah.
So he sends it. So he actually like gave me way more BNB than I even needed to do the transaction. I sent him it, told him like, just send me half back in ETH. And he sent me like almost the whole amount in ETH. Like I was blown away.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say like, and I wish I had maybe kind of led off with this at the get-go, but like just kind of even relating some of that back to like this Python's project. I have a lot of thanks and to individuals that have that saw this project and thought that it was a great project and actually like invested in it. And by invested meaning like their time and efforts in assisting with like setting up the Discord or helping to promote on Twitter and just being like a part of it from the beginning, because there's no way it would even getting it launched. Like I was up for like 30, 36, 40 hours straight, just trying to get everything listed for the drop that, and, when I dropped the remaining collection and just the people that were supporting that, it's just been really, really awesome to see. And I'm really appreciative of what those individuals have contributed. Because this was, I may have did the design and the coding for this, but there's been a lot of individuals who have provided a lot of input and advice that's gotten it to this point that I owe a lot to, just from that. And what I've kind of found in this space is just people are sure there's some sharks out there, but for the most part, people have just been really awesome, and been really genuine and have been really trustworthy, which is pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, I've found the same thing for sure. It's pretty cool. Besides the people who are literally just out trying to scam actively,
right?
For the most people, I mean, just with this podcast, we've just reaching out to people, and I'm always surprised how open and easy it is to contact people, and how excited everyone is to be a part of it too. It's really neat. That's why I went a little overboard this month booking people. It just it's been absolutely exhausting, but it's been a lot of fun too.
And I think that's I think that's pretty true, and I think that's pretty reflective of the NFT space in general, which I think is really cool. I don't know where who knows where the whole NFT thing is actually going. I mean, I think it's the element of the artist ownership and having more control is here to stay for digital works. Mm-hmm. And I think that I think we're definitely, from an art history perspective, we're definitely in a very the early stages of a very significant art movement that is really starting to take shape, and that's going to really take off. So being a part of that is really cool, even though I don't know if I can actually say that this project is quote unquote art, but I think just kind of being around the space where this is all developing is pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for me. Fry,
yeah, I think we'll go ahead and wrap with that. I guess final question. Obviously, we'll have this in the description. We did show your Twitter and stuff, but do you want to just review again where people can get a hold of you or follow Pythons?
Yeah, so you can follow Pythons, the project on Twitter at Pythons NFT. You can follow me on Twitter, and I recently just created an Instagram, but it's a whole bunch of nothing right now. But my handle for both of those is at GitLiquid, and that's GIT liquid, all one word. And then we also have a Discord for the Pythons project, and that is that can be found through either Twitter or on the Pythons OpenSea page.
Awesome.
And we'd love to have you.
Great. Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate what y'all are doing.
Cool. You guys have a good night.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.